We're here, everybody. Welcome. It's a Tuesday afternoon. It's Roll for Mischief time. You're hanging with your favorite nerds, as I like to say. Um, so, does anyone have any special announcements that they'd like to make before we get the session rolling?
I am awesome. That's
No,
all.
you're not, dude. Don't lie.
We already knew that, Asa. It wasn't really, you don't need to make a special announcement about that, honestly.
Oh, I felt the need to announce it every single time. That's all.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Apart from that, I think we're good.
No special announcements. In that case, it's time for the intro video. And as has been happening with this entire episode, the intro videos keep changing in wild and unexpected ways. And this one is totally normal, I promise. This time, and you're not going to hate it. It's just totally normal. Just deal with it.
No Comic Sans.
Hey, it's me, it's Finnegan again. Hey, I know you're probably upset about me turning everything into Comic Sans last time. I mean, let's be honest, it was mostly Alex, but I know you might be upset, and I promise I won't do anything again. Just kidding. Ah, you should see the look on your faces right now. It's just priceless. Look, I have made everyone's worst fears come true, and it's for a purpose. I promise. It's for a good reason. I think Carrie is doing a great job of moving the story along, but you need to put the fear in people even more. Even more, I say. Agner is busy being caught in his own mental prison. And as far as I'm concerned, he kind of deserves it, you know? And let's talk about Halifax. Everything rests in his hands, but no pressure or anything like that. No big deal. And Eridu, Eridu's off living in his own fantasy land. Look, Eridu, it's not real. Sorry to break it to ya. And Leoden is becoming the cult leader that she was always meant to be. Yeah, I think it's a good thing, ultimately. It's episode 12, Finnegan's Emporium 4, Stranger Things. Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. Let's see what happens. Alright, I told you you'd love it and not hate it at all. Do you hate it? Do you love it? I don't know, I just rickrolled you all. Just deal with it. No,
I love to
Finnegan.
hate it.
Finnegan rickrolled you all. I forgot I'm
Yeah,
supposed
man,
to blame
don't take
everything
credit
on him.
for Finnegan's shit, dude. Come on.
Okay,
Finnegan is so much more on top of this than you are.
is true. Alright, so, staying on schedule after that very pleasant Rick-rolling, we're going to do group therapy now. A chance to check in with our characters, see how they are in the current moment, and see what the recent events have been. Spoiler alert, it's been bad. It's been really bad. As Finnegan said in the intro, all of our characters' worst fears have been coming true. But Egner's going to be fine. Don't even worry. I don't know why you're worried. He's going to be fine. So, speaking of Egner, I'll just say a quick bit about him. And what's happened to Egner is that he's completely lost all sensory information. You know what I mean? Because he's been blind, and he's had this weird way of being able to handle the fact that he's blind, and he's had his other senses just totally increase in this daredevil-like way, where he's able to get around just fine. But there was always that kind of weakness, that Achilles heel, that if he loses, for example, his hearing, then he's going to be completely shut out and in a very bad position. And that seems to have happened. Agner can't hear anything. Agner can't see anything. Agner can't even get like tactile response from anything around him. He feels like he's floating in a black abyss of nothing, and he can't get any words out, and all he can do is scream in his head. And so that's what he's doing. But he's fine. He's fine. Everything's great. So on that note, with Egner being great, how is everyone else dealing with their personal hell?
Well, Eridu is feeling sleepy. I don't know why. He just woke up, but you know. Oh no, that's me who's feeling sleepy. Sorry. Eridu is dealing with the realization that he has sacrificed everyone he's ever cared about to, either death or some more awful fate, as is seen with Ellie, and has become the tyrant he has worked so hard to not be. I don't know, man. I don't know. This feels like a really good time for Eridu to go through a midlife crisis. I think that might be what's happening right now. That's all.
Is he gonna go and like get a pony, paint it red?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what else are you gonna do when you're like the second in command of like this empire-spanning drow tyranny? But go through a midlife crisis at like 350, and yep, do all those things.
Awesome.
All right, who's next?
Bagsy not it.
What? What?
Your turn.
Did you guys? Do you guys not have Bagsy not it in America?
Well, I mean,
We have, yeah, but not with the Begsy, just the not
not
it.
with the Bagsy.
Oh,
I like nose goes as well. When you do like.
I like the Brexit, not it. That's just me.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Well, as Kyle said, I think said last session, it's happening again. Leah believes that she has just started another cult with her brother included this time, which has never happened before. She is deep in panic mode, cannot think logically about what's going on, because she spent the majority of last session being irritated with all of the party members, not just Halifax this time. Eridu was turning into a bear and touching things, and was he even taking anything seriously? Not really. Does she even know this new Eridu? She doesn't really, so that was kind of nerve-wracking. Egner, in her mind, was being willfully ignorant about the danger she presented, especially in the room with the crystal, which really just kind of hammered home for her that no one really understood or could deal with her shit, which, not their fault, but it just meant that she had to be the one to isolate herself and so on. So by the time they got to the room with all the Finnegans, she was already like so detached from everyone else that she felt like she couldn't speak up against the whole letting sane Finnegan go. Instantly regretted that one. And then right after that, when they go into the corridor, I'm pretty sure that what was going on in her head was just kind of wishing, daydreaming about a group that all understands each other, and that maybe they would listen to her, and maybe she secretly was kind of hoping she could be in charge. So then the thing happens, and now she absolutely 100% believes that she did it, because be careful what you wish for. And that's where she's at.
So Halifax is currently staring into the jaws of the abyss. Throughout this endeavor, he's been trying to puzzle things out, find the logic in it all, the logic in, I was about to say Rick's. It's not Rick. It's Finnegan.
Finnegan.
In Finnegan's madness. So trying to puzzle this out, find out why things are a certain way and why things are where, why we are here doing this thing. And it's been interesting for that to almost like swivel on a dime, where he's got this very analytical mindset to now be confronted with, oh, you now have ultimate authority and power over the fates of your friends, as some voice whose description escapes me right now, but said, one must die to save the rest. You decide who. The longer you take, the more your friends are tortured. End their suffering soon, Halifax. So I know they're talking to me and that I'm not just overhearing something. And I don't think Halifax has an immediate answer. So he's probably going to try and brain his way out of it. Maybe shoot a lightning bolt at it.
Yeah, man. Lightning bolt.
Yeah.
All
Like,
right.
can I shoot it with lightning?
The continual question. All right, take it away, Carrie.
Okay. Thinking where to start. Let's walk back through what Halifax experienced at the end of last session, because that was quite rushed, because I was like, we're right at the end of time. So Halifax turned as you were walking down this really long corridor. So you'd sent the bird off with light cast on it. You'd been walking for like 15 minutes, and suddenly Halifax hears Eridu drop to the floor, turns around and sees him lying there unconscious. As he moves to try and get to him, he comes up against an invisible wall. It's just solid wall, can't get through it. Turns to call his friends over for help, and sees Agner cowered, holding onto his head, looking distraught. Tries to move towards him, can't reach him either. There's another solid wall there. As he turns to look for Leah, he sees her continuing walking down the corridor, turning her head from side to side as if she's talking to someone next to her, but sees nobody there. If he calls out to her, she doesn't seem to hear. No one seems to hear him. No one reacts to what he says. He tries to go to her, he hits another wall. It seems that there's like another corridor, like an invisible corridor, that seems to be the only way that he can go. At the end of last session, I did push you down that corridor because I wanted to get to the like end point. So I was just gonna push you. You follow that corridor. There's not really anywhere else for you to go. So following down that corridor, you end up in a room. There are walls to it, but it seems to have like big windows, where through each window you can see one of your friends, and you can see them suffering. When you get in there, you see them doing what they were doing before. So like Agnes sort of freaking out and holding onto his head. Eridu's lying on the floor unconscious. Leah's walking away, seemingly talking to herself. And then as you look through the windows, you hear a voice that says, I should have got this up. Okay. One must die to save the rest. You must decide who. The longer you take, the more your friends are tortured. End their suffering soon, Halifax. And as it speaks, the people around you, the people that you can see, start moaning as if they're in pain. They start now holding onto themselves more tightly. You see the body of Eridu start to convulse a little bit on the floor. What do you do?
So to clarify, I can't see the source of the voice.
No.
So I'm just in a room. I can look back down the corridor and see my friends.
You're in a room and you can see through windows that now look out
Oh.
onto your friends. It's like
Window.
it's a slightly distorted like perspective because it doesn't really make sense in terms of where you remember them being, but you can see them. That's just how it is.
Then I shall call out to the room. And how do I make my selection?
Speak their name.
What manner of creature are you?
That does not matter, Halifax. What matters is your decision in this moment.
One must die to save the rest. I decide who. One must die to save them. Why must they die?
They just must. There is no particular logic. I have simply decided that is how you will proceed.
It was rather capricious and uncaring. If I am to make a decision for some manner of being who would force that kind of decision with no context or information, how am I to know that with your ultimate power you wouldn't then force that choice upon me a second time and a third until it met your evil and devilish thirst?
Halifax, whether you make a decision or not, that doesn't make sense. If you make no decision, your friends will die. If I chose to make you decide again and again, your friends would die. All you have to do is trust that I will let you pass.
Trust in something I cannot see and do not know the nature of. You ask a lot of me.
The moans start to intensify the longer you take. And on that, I'm going to switch over to one of the others while Halifax deliberates his answer. That's right. Okay, I am going to switch to Leah, I think. So, as Leodin walks down the corridor, the last thing, well, as you walk down the corridor, both Halifax and Agner have both offered to carry things for you. They've been giving you compliments, telling you how great it is that you've joined the party now, that you're the most important one here. And as you reach a T-junction, your brother turns to you and asks you, which way, Mistress Leah? What do you do?
Huh? Eridu, what did you just call me?
What would you prefer to be called?
I'm your sister. Call me Leah.
Yes.
I don't understand.
Sister Leah, of course. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I spoke out of turn. Please forgive me.
I meant no offense.
I'm not mistress of anything. I'm not in charge of anything. I'm just here. What are you doing? Why are you asking me for help, for guidance? I'm not here for that.
Well, I do not know which way we should go, and I of course, will follow your instruction to the ends of the earth. I just wanted to know which way you thought we should go. It would not be my place to make the decision for you, of course.
Can I interject with something?
Yeah.
Sorry, folks, we're having a bit of a technical difficulty. We actually have to restart the Zoom call, and we'll be right back. So sorry for this unexpected interruption. Stay tuned. See you in just a minute. All right, 3, 2, 1. Hey, we're back, y'all. Sorry for that confusing little interruption, but we're back, and we should be able to have access to the Zoom call for as long as we need. So, yeah, where were we? I'm sorry for rudely interrupting with all that.
No, it's okay. Leah was
Panicking.
Yeah.
That's what was happening. Yeah, she is just gonna freeze there. She's not gonna choose one corridor or the other. She's just gonna say, "Wait, stop, don't do anything," and like try to back away from the group.
As you wish, Sister Leah. I will do nothing at all.
Asa, what are you doing with your name?
But it's my new alias now that I'm in the future that I created by, sacrificing everyone I care about. I'm no longer Eridu Samaria. Keep going.
Okay. Anyway, sorry.
You get a chorus of yes, Mistress Leah, or yes, Sister Leah, and they stand statue still as you step back from them, like staring at you, like they're breathing, but they're not moving.
Right. She's gonna come back actually and say, "How are you feeling right now?" To each of them.
Okay.
I feel very safe in your presence, Mistress. Sister Leah.
Stop helping, Asa.
I'm so sorry, Sister. I seem to be stepping out of place over and over again. I don't mean to do this. I hope you can forgive me. I feel ashamed of my actions.
I mean, it's at least a better Eridu voice than I can do. So,
Anyone else want to grovel? Grovel away.
Igna responds, saying, well, if I may have permission to speak freely, Miss. Well, I'm a little confused right now. I feel a deep sense of confusion over the situation, and a little bit of fear, but as soon as you're reminding myself that you're here and you will guide us, and you are, I simply need to put my safety in your hands. It's reassuring.
Very reassuring.
Most reassuring.
Halifax also
Okay.
says yes, very reassuring.
Okay, she's starting to get suspicious now because all that's going on in her head is sheer panic. And so if that is not bleeding into her companions, she does not know what's going on at this point. Is this some kind of a sick joke? Eridu, did you do this?
No, no, this is no joke. Unless, would you like it to be a joke? We can make a joke out of this if you would like. Quick, Egner, make a joke.
I have heard jokes before, but I admit that I'm not quite the best at telling them. I'm sure Mistress Leah would be even better at telling jokes. Please, enlighten us.
Yes, yes, you're right. She would probably make the best jokes. Jokes that make us feel safe and cared for and nurtured. And laugh. That's what jokes do. They make us laugh. That too. Amused. So amused.
This situation is a joke.
If you say that it is, of course it's a joke.
I'm gonna be right back, and then she'll just take off running down the corridor.
But was it something I said?
Okay. I'm gonna switch then on that to Aigner. So to kind of go back over what happened last time, when you were walking down this corridor, you started to hear like a slithering sound. As you started to try and kind of pinpoint where it was coming from, you suddenly realized that you tried to tell the other your friends. Very distracted. But when you tried to speak and say what you could hear, none of your words were coming out meaning anything. It's like you'd lost all ability to speak a language. And then as you tried to tell like where your friends were, you suddenly realized I can't hear anything. There are zero sounds now. And it slowly progressed into you not being able to like physically feel anything. You can't smell anything. All of your senses have completely gone. Where we last left you, you were screaming in your head, blaming this on Finnegan.
He's probably still doing that, honestly.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to try and do?
Well, I mean, with a complete lack of any kind of sense of anything, I imagine the sense of the passage of time would also be kind of compromised. You don't have anything to like reference against. So he'll just get lost in his own mind, lost in this frustration, in the rage. He's thinking all sorts of nasty things about Finnegan for putting him in this thing, in this whole mental prison. He'll go off in this whole like conspiracy-minded tangent where he tries to think of all the ways in which Finnegan might be in cahoots with Vincent Vishoon. Perhaps Finnegan actually is working with the ISCB to capture Egner once again because, I don't know, maybe it was all some elaborate plot, like him getting released was just to put him in this false sense of security when they actually have had it out for him this whole time. So he'll get lost in that whole rabbit hole for God knows how long. And then his mind will start to shift. He'll kind of lose the energy, lose the anger. He just won't have the ability to really be that pissed for that long. And then his mind will start to quiet and go into this more contemplative kind of state. And he'll start to pray. And he'll start to pray to Yrana, his patron deity, who he knows practically nothing about. Has no idea if her like powers or abilities or influence on the world can even stretch to where he is now. But, you know, none of that matters at the moment. He's just in this state of just asking for help.
Okay. Do you want to roll a religion check for me?
Who, me? Roll a religion check? Okay. What? Nat 20 religion check? Are you kidding me, dude? Well, Agner did something right for once. The total on that's going to be like 24, if that matters.
Crit. It's a crit for me.
It's a crit.
Yeah. Okay. I am gonna switch to Eridu now on that.
No.
So Eridu,
I am not prepared.
you you were bitten by what you gathered was a snake as they seemed to start falling from the ceiling and coming out of like the floor and basically wrapping you up. One got a good bite down in the back of your neck and you fell unconscious. As you were about to hit the floor, you instead hit the fluffy feathered pillow. You woke up in a like tower bedroom that was really fancy and well kitted out, had like a fancy marble bath in the middle of it. And you were met by a drow who informed you that your father was waiting to talk to you in the drawing room. You went to meet your father after working out and realizing that you have all of the stuff that you had when you were where you just were in the dungeon. But yeah, you go down, you met your dad, he kind of you tried to wake him. He explained to you that it's been like 6 months since you sacrificed your friends, since Halifax and Agnes' body were cast into the void, since Laodin was sacrificed for your god, and since you put Ellie to work for you. You then decided to go and see Ellie to kind of try and get an idea of what's going on. And when you found her, she was emaciated, she was nervous and flinched at every movement you made. She struggled to give you eye contact and only spoke to you when you pushed her to speak. She had been kept in a box underground and then taken from the box to a workroom where she was tied up and she could move around but not with much freedom. And she seemed to be working away on like these like metal creatures and metal men that you've seen before. I think we left it at the point where Ellie told you that she watched you kill Agner and she watched you kill Halifax and she knows what you did to Laodin, and that you betrayed all of them. So you pick up, you stood in this workshop room with her. She is tied up. She seems to be on very, very low health and seems to be kept that way for a reason. You ordered all of the guards and the drow to leave the room, so it's just the two of you on your own. What do you do?
I know the last time we left off, I had like grabbed her wrist and then like made her look at me.
Yes.
So I'm assuming like with all of this, she's like, even though she's forced to face me, even though I'm trying to be as gentle as possible, she's probably still avoiding eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
Where did I sacrifice them? Where did I kill Leah?
Leah was killed outside, out here near the temple. Agner and Halifax, they were killed. They were killed down in your father's domain.
Eridu's hands are starting to shake and his fingernails are starting to grow long like claws. Even his eyes are turning kind of animalistic. And he turns away from Ellie just before like fangs appear and hair starts to grow out his back, and then just charges towards the door, dropping onto all fours as he does, turning into a large bear, crashing through the castle, whatever fortress, whatever it is that I'm inside of, making my way towards the outside door. I don't know how much instinctive knowledge I would have of this place, but if I can make it outside towards where Leah was killed, that's where he's going.
Okay. You seem to know the way. It's like you've walked these hallways like 1,000 times, even though they don't necessarily look immediately like something you remember. It's like you've got that knowledge in the back of your head. Yeah, you charge your way out. You push your way past drow guards who they seem to have some sort of recognition because they don't go to attack you. They've probably seen this kind of form before from you. You make your way out, and again, it's almost like this instinctive back of the mind knowledge, but you almost feel drawn to where Laden was killed, like as if you do know, but you don't quite like actively remember it. And you find yourself outside the front steps of a temple church-like building.
Okay. What do I see?
And you see it's a pretty like empty clearing. As you run through this little town, most of the like elves that were around kind of cowered away from you, or if they were sort of in the doorway, they shut the doors very quickly. As you look around, you can see the odd person sort of cowering behind maybe like market stalls, who are just going about their daily business as well, and they're all that sort of gone, emaciated. They barely have any food, kind of look. Otherwise, like it's just a clear, sunny day. I mean, it's slightly odd that the drow are kind of walking around here like perfectly fine, but they seem to be. You can see guards passing in the distance in full daylight. The church doors are closed, but you know that's in the back of your mind. Something tells you like that's normal. That's not unusual. Otherwise, it's just a little town clearing.
And this is the Church of Anesti in Twin Harbors?
It's not Twin Harbors, no.
Oh, okay, okay.
This
So
is
it's
some other town.
not a town that I'm extremely familiar with as far as my own experience
No.
as a player.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna once I get to this clearing, start sniffing around and just tracking and carrying on until I get to the place where Leah's blood was spilt, and then start to just tear at the dirt and growl just at everything and everyone. And then I'm going to march toward the temple doors, and as I do, transform back into my Eridu form and just force the doors open as best I can, unless they're locked, and then I'll have to do something else.
They're not locked, it's fine. So I will say that as you are kind of like sniffing around trying to find like, a scent of her, it's been so long. Your father said it's been like 6 months. There's
Right.
not, you can't pick up like a trace, but again, there's like this sort of almost memory in the back of your mind that's pulling you to the exact point. So like, you do find it and you do know where it was, and you can acknowledge that I have found the spot where she died, but there's no like physical sense or anything that brings you there. Now, as you go into the temple, there is there's a cleric inside who sort of jumps as you force open the doors.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like pews on all the way down. It's a normal temple.
As the doors slam open, I charge toward it's a pew with like an altar at the head.
Mm-hmm.
and I'll charge towards that direction, and completely ignoring the cleric, and just demand to the empty space to the church. Why? Why did you ask this sacrifice of me? What possible reason would I have to give up all I love for this future?
You get no response.
I'm gonna pull out my staff, my broken staff, as I reach the altar, and just start to slam my staff over and over again into just whatever holy relics are around this space. Um, just pulling a Jesus and destroying the temple.
So as you do this, you don't necessarily notice, but the cleric who is in the church kind of like sidesteps along the walls and then makes a run for it out of the doors. Like doesn't want to kind of get in the way of his lord's wrath, essentially. As you kind of pound all of these relics and just knocking over everything that's around, after a few moments, there's a voice at the back of the room. Son, are you quite finished?
I have the inkling as a player that this is something that Eridu is prone to. At least as far as everyone around him has experienced over the past 6 months. I turn looking at Egrian with hate in my eyes. And then that realization sort of comes to me that I've been here before. I've done this before. That perhaps my bouts of rage are the reason why everyone seems to shrink away from me. I'm going to drop my staff and take a few steps toward Egrian. And just as I go blind, I will say, what possible reason did you give me to sacrifice Leah?
Son, when you decided to come to your senses and see our plight, you spent some time praying. I think it was a trait learned from your now passed on friend, and you came to me saying that for our future plans and for for us to thrive and flourish as a community, and I don't know what the side of the right word for it, that her life must be taken. I can't say I wasn't pleased that you came to this decision. It's not something it's something I considered before, but in the past I knew you would put up a fight to it, and we need you on our side. You're valuable. However, when you came to me saying that she must be sacrificed and that it would be better if she were to pass on, I accepted it, and you put the plan together. You created the shrine. You performed the ritual. I gave you no reason myself.
You're
Think
muted?
you're muted.
Yep, I'm still muted. I was thinking that through, and then I started talking without unmuting myself. As he's talking, I'm walking closer, completely blinded by the disconnect with my weapon, and uh, as just following his voice, but like thinking heavily about Eigner and what he's been through, and kind of channeling my inner Eigner, um, moving toward the sound of his voice, and then as I get right up to him, I place my hand on his chest and whisper to him, "Now I see. And it seems that there is one more plan that I must complete." And as I do, my fingernails grow sharp again, and I bury them into his chest just above his heart and attempt to tear his heart out.
Kalima!
Yep.
Kalima!
Do an attack roll. I guess there's an advantage because you're like right there already.
It's
I
gonna
don't
be
have
kind of
his, I
hard
don't
to
have his
miss.
stats.
I mean, rolled a 17, so I've got to have. I know my dogs are barking. That's like 20.
Okay, I'm gonna
Not
presume
bad.
his AC is lower than that because I don't have his stuff. But
Yeah, like 24 would be a ridiculous AC to have. Like anything
Oh, yeah.
higher than 24, that'd be ludicrous. Ludicrous.
okay, yeah, your fingers sink into his chest.
Primal savagery.
Should I roll some damage? I guess like.
Ooh, that's pretty good. Let's see. Do I get a modifier to this? Nope. It's just the dice. So that's 24 damage.
Okay. So as you sink your fingers in, he groans, not quite a shriek, but it's on the edge of it. And he throws his hands up to where yours is and starts trying to pull your hand away. This motion pulls you both out of the doors of the church and topples you down the stairs outside. So you land together in a heap, but you are on top of him. Do you want to
Well, I'm just gonna
continue
keep on
to
going.
try and rip his
I'm
hand
just gonna
Okay.
thrash and slash and keep on attacking him. If my hand's still where it's at, I'm gonna keep on pushing for that heart.
Damn, boy.
Do you want to roll it again?
Sure. Do I have advantage, disadvantage? I am blind.
You are blind. So straight probably.
All right. That's a 17.
I mean, that's probably still over. Do you remember what his AC is? I don't have any.
I do not know. I imagine 17 to 18 would be his AC.
I mean,
Seems
he's
reasonable.
in robes. He's not he's not ready for like a fight. He wasn't
Gotcha.
expecting a fight at this visit. So
That's 21 damage.
okay. So at this point, you're now pulling your fingers round, almost as if you're trying to grab hold of something in there, in his chest.
This is when I realize
he-
Agrian has no heart.
Yeah, it's just empty. Okay, I don't have any pluses for him. I'm guessing your AC, is it over 16?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't have it in front of me. It is 16.
Alright, okay. Attack wins. Okay, so he pulls his fist around and smacks into the side of your head. What's that gonna be like? D4 probably. Okay, so just 3 damage, but manages to knock you so that your hand kind of falls away from him. And at this point, you can't see, but you can hear lots of pairs of feet running towards you. And as hands all fall on you at once, trying to pin you to the ground, I'm going to switch back to Halifax. Halifax. You have been told to choose a person and to name a name, and that's how it works. What do we do?
So, I've been looking at the ground, pacing around a little bit, and examining the brickwork. Voice, you've certainly put me in quite the predicament. I see my friends suffering, and yet I've been left out. Why me? Why am I the one making this choice, disembodied voice?
You tell me, Halifax. Why do you think I would have chosen you to do this out of all of you?
Perhaps the rest of them are under some enchantment that I managed to evade. I didn't sense any magics. Something more powerful than I could detect, perhaps. And I was simply the one left behind. But then why play this game? That can't be it at all. Unless... Perhaps, voice, I did not escape at all. I don't know what tortures my friends are going through. My friends may very well not be being tortured at all. It may simply be me that is being tortured right now. I've known small amounts of pain throughout my life. I'm sure I'd be able to wrap my head around greater amounts. Pulling at my limbs and tearing at my flesh wouldn't work. My mind is my greatest asset, and where my power lies. Forcing me to choose, to make a choice, to use my mind in such an insidious way, one where I can't get more information, where I can't fathom things out. That in itself is a torture. Very well, voice. I have made my decision.
Name your person, Halifax.
Vintus Rolnor.
I mean, I don't know. That's a dear. So
Hey, that's a deep
you're gonna have
cut.
to fill me in on that.
Yeah, that's a deep cut, man.
That is a deep cut. So Vintus Rolnor had written a letter to Oscar, who was he the captain of the ship?
No, Oscar is, oh gosh, no, wasn't he a dwarven leader?
Yeah.
Was, yeah.
Vintus Rolnor, at any rate, is involved with the whole, like,
The Warforged.
robot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like
So-
he was the dude that like made the prototypes and he was sending them off to the dwarves, and it was when you heard that name, it was a letter written from that guy to Oscar saying like, here's what's up with the prototypes of the Warforged. Anyway, that's the information.
Wow, that's a memory. Okay. You announce this name, and you're met with at first silence, and then this voice starts to laugh, and then the moans turn into screams of all of your friends. At this point, Leah drops to her knees and is now holding onto her chest. Aigner is curled in a ball, like shaking and holding onto himself, and Eridu is full on like spitting on the floor, basically. Halifax,
Voice.
I'm not here to play games.
You told me to say a name, that someone must die. I choose Vintus Rolnor.
One of your friends must die, Halifax. One of the people suffering in here must make the ultimate sacrifice so the rest of you can move on.
Someone must make a sacrifice.
In a way, you're making the sacrifice, but you're choosing who meets the ultimate end.
Then It seems the choices that I have to either do nothing and allow the suffering to continue and them all to die horribly, or to select one of my friends who I've grown to know. Aigner is a capable warrior. His blindness has not proven to be the setback it should be. He has the potential to be the strongest among us. Choosing him would not be wise. He could do a great deal in the world and help a great many people, and he has the desire to do so. Eridu Samaria.
Sumaria.
Yeah. He is not a Somali pirate. Eridu is a troubled man. He has his demons. But again, greatly capable and a strong heart. He struggles with issues with his family past, and he fights to correct them. A trait that, if unsuccessful in his own quest, would be inspirational to others. Growing up with the stories that I did, and great bards wandering the city, I learned very quickly that stories are very powerful. Whether Eridu survives and surpasses his demons or not, his deeds will echo throughout the histories. Leah is new to me, struggles with a power that she cannot control. It would be the most logical and reasonable for me to select her, a stranger, someone who I don't know and could not identify virtues thereof. And yet, Leah has proven that she not only cares deeply about others, but is concerned about the power that she herself wields. She controls herself tightly. She makes sure that she does not harm others, whether through action or inaction. And she takes that weight upon herself. She is an admirable person, someone who would be sorely missed in the world despite her apparent absence. And taking either Eridu or Leah would devastate the other. Despite their time apart, they obviously care deeply for one another. Which leaves me to ultimately decide that since Leah and Eridu would surely fall apart if one of them were taken, and Eridu is somewhat capable given enough guidance, and there is plenty of that out there, it means that Aigner does present himself as the third wheel. And so, I have made my decision, boys. I have made my choice. I name Hilofax.
There's a silence. And then the laugh starts again. It's a valiant effort, Halifax, but you were not on the options list. You have 3 before you to choose from. Remember that no decision is still a decision. And the screams, and now these are worse than the you've ever heard coming from a living person. This is pure torment. It sounds like they're on fire from the inside kind of pain.
Stop this voice! This is madness now! I have made 2 choices, and I refuse to select one of my friends against their will and their knowledge, to sacrifice them, to snuff out their life, simply to end a few painful screams. This is torture not just of them, but of me, and of anyone else that might observe. This fiend You have defeated me. I yield.
The voice is silent, but the screams continue. And if you're left watching them scream and their bodies convulse, blood starts frothing out of their mouths. They have turned to see you, even Aigner, who you can see his eyes are glazed over, but he's turned in your direction, as if they know what could end this for them.
Oh my
And
God.
they're almost like one hand sort of reaches in your direction as if reaching for you to help them in some way.
Brutal. Oh.
Do you do anything or do you remain silent?
I look to each window and I move to each one in turn. To Agnes' window, I stare at him. Move over to Eridu, watch him. I force myself, as easy as it would be to look away, and as preferable as it would be, I force myself to look each of them in the eye so that I do not lessen the impact of the choice. I move from Eridu to Leah. And I'll look away.
Okay.
Aigner has suffered much. Eridu, his life seems to be unending tortures. Leah, she is a light unto herself. Choosing between them is almost impossible. But if I must choose one to end the suffering of the other two, and my own, just to appease you, voice, then I choose. Eridu.
Okay. As you speak his name, Leodin and Agner's bodies both immediately stop screaming or convulsing. They immediately seem perfectly okay again. And as they sit up and you watch as Leah sort of blink and look over to where her brother is, Eridu is thrashing around on the floor. Leodin watches this entire thing. Agner, well, you can't tell what Agner does, but he seems to be watching him as well, but like he could tell where he is. You can still tell he's blind. And then Eridu screams build and build until they're cut off. There's blood poured from his nose and his mouth. His body is splayed across this floor. Leah crawls, but swiftly, over to the body and starts trying to shake him awake and trying to like pump magic into him. You can see flashes around her staff. You got the healing staff. She's doing everything she can. Aigner moves over and starts trying to do what you can tell to be like what's a medicine check. Trying to bring him back basically and like rouse him. And as Eridu's body is laying limp in Leodin's arms, her head turns to look at you and makes direct eye contact with you now. And she has the most... You've never seen hatred like this on anyone's face. This is beyond even seeing Aigner looking at Zarkon. Like, this is pure hatred, and it hits you like a wave coming out from her. It's almost like you can physically feel it coming off of her. This hatred and anger and just beyond even comprehension of what you're feeling. And she stands, puts Eridu's body, like moves him towards Agna, who takes him. Almost like Agna's almost sort of in a like dull sense, like he's not quite there, like he's processing. But Laerden marches towards you, and she basically puts her hand out and goes to pin you up against the wall as she screams at you. Do you try and do anything as she does this? Bearing in mind you're filled with this feeling as well.
Does he smash through the window?
There doesn't seem to be. She seems to be able to walk straight towards you. There doesn't seem to be anything in between you now.
I do nothing to defend myself, but I will try my hardest to try and maintain eye contact. If she's looking at me, I'm not going to shy away from this.
Okay. She pins you to the wall, her hand around your throat, and screams inches away from your face. You killed my brother.
I did.
I have to do this in character now. How could you do that to him? How could you do that to me? Why would you make such a decision? You killed him.
I did.
I should kill you right now for making that decision.
You could.
She just screams. This is like primal, like she's got no thought process behind it. And she fires eldritch blasts into, she puts a hand against the wall beside your head and fires eldritch blasts into this wall, like over and over and over again, like seemingly just as many as she has the entire time, screaming in your face. By this point, Agna has laid Eridu back down on the floor. You don't really see what he does, but you can see that he's now started walking over towards you, and stands and doesn't sort of get involved in this interaction. But when Laerden kind of drops one hand to his side and then the other and starts sort of breathing heavily, Agna says, "You should have chosen me, Halifax."
Obviously. Sacrificial lamb here.
I have my reasons for my decision. A decision that I would not have made in the absence of the force behind it.
You made the wrong decision, Halifax.
That may well be. I am sorry, my friends.
Leah shakes her head and says, "There are no words you could ever speak to me ever again that would even come close to making amends for this choice. You're dead to me, Halifax." And she turns and walks back over to where Eridu's body is and says, "Agna, help me with him, please." And Agna nods his head, turns from Halifax and walks over to the body and helps Laerden to pick the body up. And they start walking together down the corridor.
I will hold for a moment and I'm going to look around the room one more time. Look towards where Eridu died and look around, see if I can see anything. An arrow slit that someone might be watching through, some kind of scrying orb or something. some clue as to who might be behind this, who forced this choice on me. Just taking a good minute or so. I know that I could catch up to them down a corridor if I run. So I'm going to take a minute or so to just have a look.
Okay. Do you want to do an investigation check for me?
Sure. I'll be using the super special awesome Google thing because, you know, everything's in boxes. Yeah.
Never trust Google Dice Roller.
And it got an 11 on the die, and investigation, was it?
Yeah.
I get +5, so that's 6.
Okay. On that, I'm going to switch back over to Leodin, I think. So bearing in mind, Leodin has not experienced this at all. So you have zero idea that this has happened. So for all you guys, you're still in whatever's happening to you.
Wait,
so Leodin
Eridu's not
has...
dead? Oh, damn.
Not according to Eridu.
This
yeah,
changes
Eridu
everything.
thinks he's going about his daily life.
Murderous ways. My daily life. Oh god. This is life now. I surrender to it.
Okay, so Leodin, what would you like to do?
Well, I believe when last we left Leodin, she was tearing down the corridor in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
She will probably at some point stop running. And when there's a very good distance between her and them. There aren't any other like doors or anything in the hallway, are there?
There aren't, but how long would you say that she runs for? So bearing in mind you'd already walked about 15 minutes-ish.
She's looking for a different room to go into because she knows that usually being in a different room lessens the impact of whatever is going on in her head. So she's trying to find somewhere else to be.
Okay. So as you run, and you keep running, and you keep running, suddenly the corridor turns. Whereas, although you're kind of in a state of panic, there is something in the back of your mind that says there was no turns in this corridor.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, what was a straight corridor, you come up against a wall and you have to turn left. So turning that corridor, turning that corner, is another corridor that looks identical to one you'd be running down. Do you take the corridor?
No. Wall, and turn back to the corridor that she came from. And try to calm herself down as she walks back.
Okay. So you're walking back towards the people.
Yeah.
The people.
What's that?
As you... No, nothing. I'm just getting my words mixed up. Okay, so as you walk, and you start getting closer to them, you hear them having a slight argument / discussion. And you hear Halifax saying, "But what if she gets lost? We should probably go and find her and make sure that she's at least safe. I know she asked us to stay here and to do nothing, but to do nothing and let her fall into danger would be against everything we stand for." And Eridu replying, "My sister said to stay here. We should stay here. I do not wish to cross her. I do not want to upset her. She knows what we should be doing down here. And Agnes says, yes, I think Eridu is right, but maybe if she takes too long, then maybe we should go and look for her slowly. But we don't want to upset her further. She seemed very upset, and well, frankly, that makes me upset too. You hear this argument as you get closer to them, and then you can see them kind of looking at each other in this discussion. What do you do?
She's going to do calm emotions.
Okay.
Another one of those things where she's doing it on herself, but also hoping that it will work on others. And sometimes it does work to remove whatever influence other people are under.
Okay. So do you want to make that save?
Yeah, usually when it's against herself, she has to do that. I got a 6.
Okay. So probably doesn't pass your save.
No, sorry, it was a well, it still doesn't pass. It was an 11, but yeah, no, doesn't.
So
doesn't
what
work.
round is that? Because the pass is usually to not feel the calm emotions. So
The first time we did it way back in Ace's game, the pass was she is calm because that's what she was aiming for, and a fail was it doesn't work.
Okay, so it doesn't work. You don't feel
Not calm.
it latch on. You don't feel any different.
Not calm.
But at the same time, like you do have more control over yourself. Like you are still actively trying to be calm. So you know it's not as intense as it was coming out from you, but you know that the spell's not worked, and if you start panicking again, it will be just as it was, kind of thing. As you come inside, as they see you, they turn and immediately stop talking. And Eridu says, "We waited for you like you said, sister."
We did nothing in abundance.
She at this point is pretty actively tearing up because now she feels like this is an inevitable thing that was always going to happen, and she's ruined 3 more lives, and one of them is her brother, and so she's just saying, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry this is happening. I'm so sorry. And then she'll choose one of the corridors because now all she can think of is like, just get us all out of here and try to leave later if she can.
Okay. You see tears welling up in all 3 of their eyes. And it starts falling down their faces, and they look just as sad as you feel, as you would probably expect them to. I mean, just like that, just like Ace's face. And you start walking left or right. Which do you go down?
Do they both look identical?
Yeah.
She'll choose the right one.
Okay. You start walking everybody down the right-hand corridor. The other 3 follow after you. Like, they're not side by side with you, but they're very close. It's almost like they're around you in a little semicircle. And they're crying silently along with you, but they also, you can see them sort of watching you and waiting for you. Like, if you stop or you walk a little quicker, they'll speed up or they'll slow down if you stop. And you continue down this identical corridor to both the other ones that you saw as well. Everything looks exactly the same. I I'm going to switch to Aigner now. So Aigner has been praying and trying to calm himself down.
Praying really well, by the way.
Praying really well.
Really, really well.
And you get this almost like an instinct rather than a message or anything, to just keep moving, just try and leave. It's that kind of like you just need to leave kind of feeling. So you can feel it sort of pulling you kind of in a direction. Do you take the instinct, or?
You know, I think he will, because there's been plenty of like precedent for that. Like I've described many times to try and make sense of the different ways that Agner makes his way throughout the world. Sometimes he'll get this like thread, you know, going with the whole spider deity kind of theme. You know, it's as if he was standing on a spider's web, and then one strand of it just stretches off into the distance for as long as he can sense, and he just has done that several times and just walked along that strand. He doesn't necessarily have to tiptoe, but it's got kind of that feeling where he's like, this is the only way. This is the only way forward. So if he gets a sense that that kind of thing is happening again, then he's just going to do it. And even though he doesn't have any tactile sense, he's going to imagine putting one foot in front of the other, going in the direction that he is instinctively drawn toward.
Okay. So as you start to move, it feels right. Like you're still feeling that panic. You can't feel anything. Like you can't sense anything. But as you move, you do. The corridor at first feels just like it did before. I'm gonna keep saying feels, even though you can't feel anything.
Yeah, that's all right.
But eventually, it starts to get narrower. You only notice it when you start to feel like your shoulders, although you can't feel the wall, you feel that you can't move from side to side properly. There's something penning you in. And that keeps going to the point of where you're sort of pressed up properly against the wall. You can still move, but you're being pressed in. And then you start to feel it on the top of your head. And it starts to push you down. You get to the point where you're crawling along this corridor. And then suddenly something happens. You don't really notice it because you can't hear or feel. However, something suddenly breaks through. You hear something. It sounds like a bit of a crackly noise. You've heard something similar to this before, and it was how the... Wait, was Agner there? Agner might not have been there because that was your episode. Okay, maybe you haven't heard anything like this before.
Mm-hmm.
You hear a crackly sound that might be like a recording.
Oh, okay.
And you stop. What you can hear is wildlife. You can hear footsteps walking through grass. You can hear birds chirping in nearby trees, and then voices. Quiet and in the distance at first, but getting louder. You can hear the cracking of wood on a fire. And the voices, as they get closer and louder, they sound happy. Some of them slightly drunken. You can hear a few lines of song being sung. You can hear drinks sloshing around and cups being banged together. And then you hear a voice that you recognize. It's Halifax, and he's talking to someone. And then you can hear the quiet tones of Eridu responding. You can't really make out exactly what they're saying, but you can pick out their voices like perfectly. You've heard their voice like that. But they sound relaxed. Everyone around there sounds calm and like they're having a good time. You hear the footsteps continue walking through the grass. They pass something that creaks and groans. It sounds like metal creaking, as if something is exhaling. And then the footsteps are on a more gravelly surface. And then you hear a door swing open. And then a very close inhale of air, as if someone is gasping inadvertently. And you recognize that because although you've not been around her for that long, you could now pick out her voice in a crowd. And you can tell that's Ellie gasping. And then it stops. And as you try and listen, as you've been concentrating on listening to that sound, you suddenly realize you can actually hear a little bit more of what's going on around you. You can hear as you move your hand along the floor trying to find whatever it was that started this noise. And you can hear, whereas before the floor was covered in like a red carpet with marble underneath it, this is now like lumpy, worn stone underneath you. Very dry though. There's no dampness or anything. And your hand eventually finds a box, and as you pick it up, you can feel it. It's definitely there. You can feel where the buttons are. You can feel sort of the almost thumbprints of the person who has kind of put this thing together. And you realize it to be the box that Ellie gave you before she left, when she said to you, whenever you get scared or homesick, that she thinks this might help.
Well, all right.
And as you click the button again, the sound starts looping over again. And at this point, Eridu, from your strange dream world, which you think is tactile, you can feel everything.
I'm beating up my daddy.
You can hear like chirps and fire crackling coming from you. It doesn't make sense. You don't know where it's coming from, but it's definitely there. And both Halifax and Leah, suddenly you can hear these birds chirping as well, and these footsteps on ground that isn't the ground that you're walking on. And we're gonna leave it there for our break.
Well,
Okay.
what's in the box? I guess we're kind of finding out. All right,
Yeah.
folks. We're going to take our break. Please join us in about 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll continue our little story we got going on. We'll be right back.
Little story.